Welcome back. This is the BalaCore Fitness Show, and Ellen Como is off today, and I'm here with Kerwin Burns.
Hello.
Rebecca.
Hi.
And Dee.
Hey.
Damsels in Defense are here as our guests. And what we're going to talk about on this segment is what has occurred personally, your personal experiences with attacks or something that has happened to you to make you passionate about what you do as a kickboxing instructor, self-defense instructor, and as you are so passionate about helping women and men in the Damsels in Defense products. So, Kerwin, did you have some experiences?
Yeah, for me, it started when, I started out in the martial arts when I was 5 years old. I'm 47 now, so I've got over 42 years of experience. But I was attacked when I was 13. I was hanging around an older kid. And, when you're young, you think it's kind of cool that an older kid would show some interest in you. And he coerced me into a isolated place in a park that we were hanging out with. And at that time, I thought maybe, we were going to smoke cigarettes or smoke some weed. I didn't really know what to expect. But when we got behind these trees, he came up to me and started trying to take my clothes off. And I pushed him away. And all of a sudden, the attack was on, and he jumped on me and pushed me down face forward into the ground and was holding me down with his hand over my mouth, trying to take my clothes off. And I fought back, and I'm wrestling with the guy, and it must have taken a couple of minutes, but it seemed a lot longer than that at the time. Even though I had martial arts background, I wasn't prepared for that kind of an attack. I was used to like throwing high kicks, and at that point I was stuck. So I just knew in my heart that I was not going to surrender to this person, and he's going to have to kill me to accomplish his goal. And at one point, I wiggled my mouth out and started screaming for help while he was holding me down. And there was a maintenance worker in one of those like ATVs with a wagon in the back. He stopped his vehicle because he could hear the cries, and he was looking around, but he didn't know we were behind the trees. And I think that it was that constant fight that almost kind of tired him out, that he got frustrated and now was looking for an exit strategy and decided he just pushed me off, called me a bad name, and I got up and ran home, told my family about it, and I didn't report it to the authorities because I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know it was, a rape. I didn't know it was, the guy was a pedophile. I thought, to me at that time it was like gay or something. So I told some people about it, and it got back to him. And a couple of weeks later, he trapped me in front of it was a Thrifty's at the time, with 6 of his buddies. And they surrounded me. I was on my bike, and he wanted me to admit to all of his friends that it was a lie, and I would not do that. So he was holding my handlebars and punching me in the face, saying, "Tell him the truth." And I said, I told him the truth. I basically made a gay slur towards him because that's what I thought it was at the time. I didn't understand it, and he just kept punching me in the face, and I was a bloody mess. There was adults and bystanders walking by doing nothing. I thought that they would have helped, but I think because there was these 6, 7 high school kids surrounding, it was an intimidating presence at the time, maybe. But at one point, one of the guys that I knew that was in his group told him he's had enough, and they let me go. Years later, he came into my place of business, and I had found out later that he had molested 2 other boys and had gone to prison for it. And when he came into my place of business, it was so weird because I recognized him as soon as he came through the front door, and there was nobody around. And you would think that you'd get the Hollywood ending at that point, that, I got my revenge, I'll lock the door. But it's not like that. Being so many years has gone by, and the way of training as martial artists, we take more of a defensive approach to everything. I felt a calmness about me, introduced myself to him, and he started to shake and basically left. And I don't know, I just didn't feel like there was a need to take it any further than that at that time. So being that I do have personal experience with it, I do understand it. I try to share. I have 42 years of experience. If I don't share it with somebody, it's just going to go to waste. And, if I can help one person, fight off an attack, then it's definitely worth it.
Well, that's an amazing story, Kerwin, and thanks for having the courage to share that story with everybody.
You're welcome.
So as we can see, it can happen to men and women, and a lot of it sounds like Kerwin says he knows the stats is they don't go report it. So most people don't even know that it happens as much as it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 1 in 5 women in their lifetime will suffer some kind of sexual assault. And with men, it's over 1 in 50, because it's usually men that are, the perpetrators. With, men, the attacks usually happen in prison. I do hear the numbers that there are attacks in the gay community, and most of it's pedophilia. So, you're dealing with those 3 circumstances, where with women, they're being attacked going on a hike. And it's twice as more likely for a woman to be attacked just going about her daily business than a man incarcerated. It happens 1 in 9, I think, is the statistic that I found, with men who are incarcerated. And that's the first thing that goes through their mind when they go to jail. They don't even think about death. They think about protecting themselves and not being raped. So they get themselves a weapon, they form alliances, they start to figure out a plan. And I don't think women are doing that enough.
And that's an amazing story, because that's now from the male perspective, from Kerwin, who's now, his life has changed from that moment to become a self-defense instructor, kickboxing instructor, and to give back. And that's where we know that where the passion comes from. The Damsels in Defense, we'll talk to them next, to Rebecca Fisher and Dee Boudreau, and they're going to give their experiences and their life stories as well. So we're looking forward to that. So there's the BalaCore Fitness Show, and it's on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Hi, this is the BalaCore Fitness Show. Welcome back. This is Danny Liu, and Ellen Como, my co-host, is off for today, and you are listening on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS, and we're here with Kerwin Burns.
Hello.
I'm here with Rebecca Fisher.
Hey.
And Dee Boudreau.
Hello.
And Rebecca and Dee are the owners of Damsel in Defense, and they sell a product line of we call it like self-defense equipment per se, right?
Right.
And Kerwin just finished sharing about his experiences, which touched us. I mean, because a man having that happen to them is, you don't think it happens to men as much as women. So Rebecca was just sharing off air her experience, and if you feel comfortable sharing with the audience of your experience, Rebecca.
Yeah, definitely. So Kerwin had mentioned that 1 in 5 women are survivors of rape. Another stat is that 1 in 3 women are survivors of domestic violence, and every 26 seconds in America, a violent crime occurs. Every 26 seconds. Every 40 seconds, a child is abducted. Those are pretty startling stats. And me personally, I'm a survivor of 3 of those stats. So when I was 15, a girlfriend and I were hanging out with some older guys. I was a little nervous. We thought that was cool, but I instinctively knew something wasn't quite right. I was handed an open beer. I took a sip of that beer, and the next thing I know, I'm hardly conscious, and I'm being raped by one of those older guys. I didn't report that. I felt like it was my fault. I got myself into that. I took a beer from a guy I didn't know. I didn't know how my parents would respond to that. I didn't know how the police would respond to that. I kept it to myself. Later, I was hanging around older guys again, and I don't want anyone to feel like I'm making it seem like this was my fault. No woman should ever be raped, no matter what they do. But I was hanging around older guys, and this guy felt like he had a claim on me. He was a gang member. He felt like he had a claim on me, and I wanted nothing to do with him, and so he took me. I was kidnapped for a day, and he threatened to rape me, kill me. It was a horrible night. Luckily, he let me go. He got really drunk. I was able to get out and call my mom. And then later, when I was 19, I had a job working for a family business, and my best friend at the time, her uncle, who was part of it, we went to visit him, and she left to get something at home, and I was alone with him, and I had this feeling of trust because he was family, the family I worked for, and within a few minutes he was on top of me, taking my clothes off, 200 pounds of pure muscle. I knew, I tried to wiggle out, and I was getting nowhere. I just knew that I was not getting away from this. He was cussing at me and telling me what he was going to do, and the only tool I had at my defense at the moment was my brain. And so what my brain was telling me to say was that his sister was waiting for a phone call from me. And that got him off me in a second.
It's good thinking.
And I was able to get away, yeah. So I tell women often that your greatest defense is your brain. Be aware, have a plan. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, luckily, our subconscious mind tells us what to say. Thank God for me, I don't know where I'd be. But so I've had personal experiences of being victimized and feeling helpless. And so I'm really passionate about sharing not just weapons that we have, but safety tips. You know, be aware. Maybe don't go from the grocery store to your car with all your bags in your hands. You know, be just a tiny bit. Well, for me, it's lazy. I don't want to push that dang cart back. But now I do. I push the cart back because it keeps my hands free. I can keep my pepper spray in my hand. Little things like that. We share all these tips to make sure women know that they have options. They know what to look for, because we're at a great disadvantage just walking around. We're at a disadvantage because the perpetrator has a plan and we don't. We don't see it coming. We're at a disadvantage because men are stronger than women in general. Sorry, ladies, I know some women think they're really strong, and they are, but most men are stronger. So we're at a disadvantage there. So we need to take that advantage back. And by having a stun gun, a pepper spray, some self-defense training, and some awareness, we might have the advantage now.
Yeah. Dee, are you seeing the same thing when you talk to a lot of the women that you're dealing with and selling products to in their experience?
Yeah, we do have a lot of women that come to our table, and we hear their stories, and they all have the same thing in common. They weren't prepared. They didn't have a plan. And so, you know, my passion for this is because, sadly, Rebecca's not the only friend that I have that has experienced these things. I haven't personally, but women that I love have been victims. And I have a 20-year-old daughter, and it terrifies me. She's out there sometimes alone and driving and on college campus. And so I want to get out there, and I want to get a plan. I want these women to have a plan.
Well, and what we're finding also is that when they do go off to college, that statistic increases by 30%.
Yes.
Yeah.
HBO just did a documentary on that a couple months ago, and they were talking about the numbers skyrocket as soon as, you know, our babies end up going off to college, and all of us as parents are preparing our kids for life, but we're not preparing, which is probably the most important thing, is their safety. You know, we're preparing for the education part of it, but we're forgetting what's really important. I really think that people just don't want to think about it. They just don't want, you know, that reality check. Because when I talk to them, they're like clueless. Mm-hmm. And it's almost 100% of the time I talk to them and they just have no idea.
Yeah, they're looking forward to going to college, their first taste of independence and all the great things that go along with college, but they also should be prepared and be aware. They can look on a Clarity report. All the colleges have to report it, and they can see, you know, what the statistics are for their campus. So that they're aware. They're aware if they're at a campus where there's 33 rapes in 1 year or, you know, assaults. So they should always check the Clarity reports for the campuses they're going to be attending.
That's amazing that you even say that, because I didn't even know what the report. What is it? What's the report called?
CLERY.
Okay, Clarity report. So that for all you parents out there, grandparents, or even students that are about to apply or go to colleges, you want to make sure you check out those reports, because it seems like a lot of that is also not reported. So if those are the ones that are reported. So on our next segment, we're going to talk about maybe some of the items that you can use, the quick techniques. We'll talk with Kerwin as well. This is Danny Liu on the BalaCore Fitness Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.